Let's jump into our first interview. The Stockholm International Water Week is one of the world's largest single gathering of experts on water and sanitation. Joining us now from the conference in Stockholm is to discuss water resource conflict is Dr. Jägerskog. He's Program Director for the World Water Week. A very warm welcome to you, Doctor. One of the things I would like us to start with is it just seems from what I've been reading with the conference and part of the focus seems to be a lot on food production and how much water that consumes.
Yes, that's correct. The focus on this World Water Week is on food security and the linkages it has to water. Just to give you an example, for a hamburger to be produced in terms of water, 2,500 liters are needed. So those kind of linkages to highlight the water aspect of the food security are some of the issues we are discussing during the week.
Well, here's one thing that was concerning for me that I picked up from the conference was that more than 1/4 of the globe's water is used to grow over 1 billion tons of food that nobody eats. So what is happening with all that wastage? How is it happening and why is it happening?
Yes, it's true that a lot of food is wasted. In the food supply chain from the field where the food is grown to the plate where you and I eat it, roughly say one third is lost through poor storage, lack of good transport, as well as us throwing away perfectly eatable and good food just because it has passed the sort of date mark, the labeling with the latest date.
So now, what is the plan of how we're going to balance this? Because it seems as though on one hand you've got people that don't have any food and people that are on the brink of starvation. On the other hand, you've got all this wastage. And then at the end of the day, we do have this issue of water scarcity. How do we bring that balance about?
Well, there are a range of things we can do. One key thing is, of course, to address the losses in the food supply chain, moving from the field to the fork. And there are plans to improve transports as well as the efficiency of the storage and so forth. But that can be done much more efficiently. Another thing would be to have more of a flexible labeling of the food that we are eating. In the sense that you can have another longer lifespan of the food if you store it in a cooler place, for example. And
so now it seems as though there are a lot of people that are at this conference. What are you hearing just in terms of the people that are in terms of production? Because a lot of politicians are at this conference, but also, you know, you look at the value chain and the people that are producing the food. How much commitment is there to make the kind of changes that are needed for us to be able to preserve the water resource?
Well, I think this problem needs to be addressed from a range of sources. Of course, the private corporations needs to address the issue, as well as governments and so forth, putting forth perhaps new regulation in terms of date labeling and so forth. So there is a range of issues that needs to be addressed here. But us consumers, we can also do this and increase the water resources that we have by eating less water-intensive foodstuffs, such as meat. For 1 kilo of meat, roughly 15,000 to 20,000 liters of water are needed. But for 1 kilo of cereal, only in relative terms, 1,000 liters of water are needed.
Doctor, if we were to bring it here to the African continent, I mean, we do have so many issues, and one of the things that has been brought up is that we could be seeing in terms of conflict, and already we're seeing grain prices are absolutely skyrocketing, and grain is a staple for many African countries. So just speak to us about what we can do on this continent in terms of some of the developments that you're hearing taking place.
Yes, the issue is critical for the African continent, and with the droughts that are ongoing in the Horn of Africa, West Africa, but also in the US, is making the food prices soaring, going up. And that means a lot of negative consequences for in particular the poor people in Africa. What is needed is, of course, in certain cases there's a need for food aid, but also in terms of investments that are being made on the continent, the land acquisitions that are being done by foreign countries. Often these are done so that the poor farmers' interests are not taken into account. And more of regulations and principles that are for responsible agri-investments are needed on the African continent to improve food security.
Dr. Anders, thank you so much for joining us.